This is Toledo Symphony Lab, a behind-the-scenes look at the world of classical music from WGTE Public Media and your Toledo Symphony. I'm Brad Cresswell. Joining me today are the Toledo Symphony's president and CEO, Zach Vassar. We also have on the phone our music director, Alain Trudel, as well as the TSO's marketing director right here in the studio with us, Felicia Canny. Welcome, everybody. Glad to have you along.
Thank you.
Afternoon.
So what we want to talk about first are a couple of concerts that are coming up this weekend. On Sunday, I'll just mention it, 4 o'clock at the Peristyle. Alain, you're conducting one of those side-by-side concerts again. Can you just give us a quick little intro as to what that is about?
Well, of course, I'm very happy to be part of any concert that has our younger colleagues in it. And the side-by-side is a great way for us to spend more time with them. They came and they played a concert with us before Christmas when we played on Heldenleben. And now it's like they came to us and now we're joining their program for this one. Also on that program, actually half the program will consist of the winners of our Young Artist Solo Competition. And this is also a wonderful opportunity for them to play, a wonderful opportunity for the public to hear these young and talented individuals. And they're going to play, there's two that play the violin. One is playing, I think, Bruch number 1, the first movement. Another one is playing Lalo, Symphonie Espagnole. And on the piano, we're going to have a Rhapsody in Blue.
Yeah.
And one thing I would add to that, Alain, is that there's this idea that the Philharmonic Orchestra is the one who played with us at the Peristyle on that Heldenleben concert. But for this performance, the Toledo Symphony musicians will be performing with all three of the younger colleague orchestras.
Absolutely. And that's very true, Zach. And we had the Symphonic and the Philharmonic, but one of the very special ones that I discovered this year was the concert strings. I walked in the rehearsal because I went to see them a few times, and I walked in this rehearsal, and there's about, 80 to 100 little string players. They're not all little, but anyway.
And they're younger.
Well, it's difficult to be like, if you're very little, to play the double bass. So,
yeah. Never had that problem myself, I have to say.
I still have that problem.
It was wonderful. It's great. And also, they're so well coached and taught and conducted. I mean, for me, I'm walking in. I'm doing a little something with them. I mean, it's a big thing because all the musicians and I are, like I said, we're joining them. So once they come to us, and the other time we play with them, their repertoire and what they have planned on that day.
That's great. So that's happening Sunday at 4 o'clock at the Peristyle. Now, the concert we really want to talk about is happening on Saturday. Let me pull up a little music here. Sort of get us in the mood. This is a jazz concert. You are appearing, Alain, with Gene DiNovi. Tell us all about it.
Well, Gene is a very incredible musician, very dear friend, and he was actually one of the original bebop pianists in the 40s and 50s on the New York 42nd Street. So
wow.
I know, he's 90 years young.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
and he's playing. No, really, it's incredible. When we rehearse together, when we play together, sometimes I go to his place in Toronto, and we play. And after like 3 hours, I'm the one. I feel bad. I'm the one saying, "Gene, you think you can take a little break here?" Oh, sure, whatever. and it basically says like, "You want me to fix you a sandwich or something?" I said, "No, it's okay, relax." He said, "Well, you take a break. I have to work on something." Keep playing. I'm like, "Oh my God."
Yeah. Well, when you're 90 years old, people will make you a sandwich. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's really, really a special thing to have him with us. I've been wanting to do this. This is one of the shows I wanted to do so dearly from the first day I was named in this job because, first of all, I love playing the trombone. I don't do it as often as I used to, but I love playing. And also my background, not just my background, but both my parents were jazz musicians. So that was my first love, was jazz music. And Gene is, for me, it's very important to have as many people listen to his way of playing, the way he plays. And that's very, very important. Because music is an oral tradition, and that's the way you really hear it, the way to learn about it, the way to know how the great ones played is to have, how do you say, like the degrees of separation? People say you have 6 degrees of separation. Well, it's like no degrees of separation because he's the guy.
Wow.
He's playing it for you. He played with Benny Goodman, played with Duke Ellington.
Wow.
Actually, when Billy Strayhorn passed away, Duke Ellington offered Gene to be the composer of the Ellington band. Imagine.
Wow.
And back then, Gene was working a lot with famous singers and was also having his own television show. So, of course, he couldn't take that job. But it just shows the magnitude of his art.
Have you two performed together before on stage?
Yes. Yeah, many times. We've done the piece that he wrote for me for orchestra. He wrote a piece for me that's called Symphonic Settings of the Great, big band leaders, because it so happens that, trombone players more times than none is that become leaders of their band. I think it's because we play, we're used to play the music that's, how could I say, the inside the music. So we play a lot of the harmonies, we play a lot of things that are not necessarily the principal line, but we get to know very well how the inside workings of an orchestra or of a big band. And, like Tommy Dorsey, of course, Glenn Miller.
Yep.
Yeah, they're all trombone players.
Oh,
and,
really?
yeah. I know it's kind of something that everybody knows, but still. But they're amazing musicians. And Gene, having played with them, he played with Benny Goodman also, he thought, what about we write a little tribute to the big band leaders in the form of doing a medley of pieces that everybody knows. His medley starts with Getting Sentimental Over You, goes to Moonlight Serenade, goes to Caravan, goes to Stardust, and it also has pieces like Bijou that people know a little bit less. So we've played that medley a few times with orchestra, but mainly we've played a duet concert, like just piano and trombones, kind of an American songbook, just sit on the stool and you sit on the piano and we just play. We played in New York, we played in a bunch of other places, but it's really something special because you basically have the history of jazz in front of you on stage.
Yeah.
And he goes through the repertoire, goes through the tunes. And when you play a tune with him, he knows the entire tune, all the words, and he knows also the intro, and he knows the little particular thing that every singer used to do. So when he basically, I say we play together, but I think he teaches me. It's more that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like the two of you are very comfortable on stage together. Do you know what you're going to play ahead of time, or do you sort of work it out in real time?
Well, when we played just the two of us, we kind of, we have enough pieces that we've played together in the repertoire. And American songbook is like endless. It's an endless source of repertoire.
But with orchestra, you probably have to prepare some of it.
Nah, they can follow along. Just say, give me 12-bar blues.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. So when with orchestra, you have to do a real set list, and people have to know because there's another 70 people behind you.
Right.
They have to know
Snap your fingers and say, try to keep up. Right?
Yes, exactly. No, but we're going to do things with the orchestra, do things as duet. He's going to play also some solos. But and I play with the bass and with the combo. But it's a mixture of everything. I don't think just playing all the tunes with the orchestra is necessarily so, it becomes one-dimensional and that kind of show, and that kind of pop show. So it's nice to have variety. And the orchestra will play by itself also a few medleys, and everybody's favorite. So it's going to be a show that talks about the swing era. It's going to go all the way to the bop era, but mainly big band stuff that people know and love.
So, Alain, there's a question I have for you, which is our audiences probably are accustomed to seeing your back and your shoulders. They aren't used to you turning around and playing the trombone. So
I know I have to shave.
Yeah.
Your back or your shoulders?
Let's continue. So, is this typical for conductors to keep up an instrument, to do concerts like this? how do you gauge this versus your peer group?
Well, I would say it's more usual for pianists, because you have to keep in shape somewhat, but you don't lose your quote unquote chops. So for brass, it's very difficult because I wind up and I'm finishing an opera run, and when I come home, I'm tired, but I still have to do another 20 minutes, half hour, just to make sure that things work. And I do a little bit during the day, and in the morning I bring Bebe to daycare, and then I play a little bit, and I go and get her. Then she knows all about the trombone. I mean, all my kids know about the trombone very
Mine
well.
too.
So, and so it's just you have to be very dedicated. I don't know how many years I'm gonna keep it up because it's quite demanding. And when we arrive and people in the business know that when you do February, March, April, May, they're very demanding months because the end of the season approaches, and there's a lot of concerts, a lot of different productions, and you just want to make sure that you keep your chops alive, during that time. And for me, it's quite demanding. Also, if you're ever interested, I'm playing a new horn on that show that's never been played in concert. Yeah.
Oh, really? What's the horn?
Yeah. Well, what I did, once I was walking down the street, I think it was in Toronto, I'm not sure. But anyway, there was, how do you say, a place where they sell all kinds of...
a pawn shop?
Stuff. No, not a pawn shop. A place where you can buy... a place where you can buy antiques and...
An antique store.
So anyway, I saw a slide coming out of a pot somewhere, and that's time I said, hey, you have a trombone slide there. So yeah, I think I have the rest of it somewhere. So the guy went to get it and put it together, and it was exactly one of those trombones that was used by not by that person, but the same model that was used by Tommy Dorsey all the way to Glenn Miller. And I played it. It sounded great. I mean, it was difficult to play a little bit because it was a little bit out of shape, the instrument. Yeah. But I thought this is wonderful, and I thought if I had a trombone that actually worked very well in that kind of style, I would play it on the jazz show. And I talked to the people in Yamaha, and they just made me one. They took the specs and they totally made one that's kind of in the same style as those trombones from 1920, 1930.
That's cool. Amazing.
Must be nice.
Yeah, it's quite small actually. Compared to what I play regularly, it's very nice. It's a very sweet sound. It sings a lot, I'm very excited to play it. Actually,
are you using a Trudel mouthpiece?
Well, yes.
I think by definition, any mouthpiece that he uses is a Trudel mouthpiece, right? Yeah.
But you mentioned Yamaha, so I'm thinking like the specially branded one, right?
It's just something they did at some point. I mean, I don't want to brag about it.
It's okay.
I do want you to brag about yourself because I think it would be helpful for some of our listeners to realize a little bit more about your solo career. In that you have been performing trombone with other orchestras and you've recorded many wonderful CDs. Tell us a little bit about what you've been up to lately.
Well, on trombone, not as much as I used to, of course, because of my many, mainly
your day job.
Toledo. I have to tell you that this whole our how could I say, our story that we're writing together. I mean, Toledo Symphony already has their own story, but the part of the story we're writing together is very exciting to me, and it's very, I don't know, it touches my heart a lot because I felt welcome and accepted by my colleagues, but by the community also. So it's very special. I'm discovering, as I told you before, I didn't work in the U.S. all that much. I worked in Europe a lot, and I worked in Asia a lot, and of course in Canada. But discovering the Midwest and the mentality of the Midwest is wonderful. The real people are real, and musicians are the same way. I mean, so when they play, there's a kind of honesty that comes out, and it's really amazing. Anyway, so yeah, for me on trombone, well, I did a big tour last summer. I played in Amsterdam and Berlin, and I played in Rostock and a bunch of other places, recitals, and of course teaching at the big schools like the Conservatory in Amsterdam and just going around and playing. But in the past, I've played a lot around the world, and I have recordings in Vienna with the Radio Symphony. I premiered a lot of works in Philharmonique de Radio France, and a lot of it in Asia. I mean, and not just because of the Yamaha connections, but just because I guess people like my playing. So I wind up going around and playing a bunch of places. So it's like in another life a little bit now, because I've done so much conducting since then. But I have to say that when I play the trombone, when I play an instrument for an extended period of time, I'm a better conductor. So that's one point that's very important, because you always have a sense of reality that you actually have to produce a tone. And it's not, because if you spend a lot of time not playing whatever instrument the conductor plays, but you have to play your instrument to a level that's satisfactory enough to play in concert, not just keep in shape. But so they have a bit of pressure that you have to go on stage and perform yourself. Then when you ask things from your colleagues in the orchestra, of course it's musical. Of course it has the great idea and arc of the music that you're playing. But it's also practical enough that they don't need so much information to be able to do what you're looking for.
Yeah.
That's important. Yeah. So anyway, for me, it's important. The love of the instrument, of course, just making a sound. I mean, whatever instrument you play, the joy of having a nice sound coming out. That's really nice. I mean, I know it sounds simple, but it's not.
Well, some sounds are nicer than others. I mean, if I picked up that trombone, it wouldn't be as nice of a sound. So,
well, I think you're also too humble of a person to say this, but I think when we got you as music director of the TSO, all of the low brass friends that I had were geeking out over it, because you're one of the top trombone players in the entire world. I mean, and then I think I saw a photo of you with Joel Lessie, and my jaw just dropped because those are, you two are the best in the world, and that's what we have here in Toledo.
Oh my God, Joe's amazing. Joe Lessie is principal trombone player of New York Philharmonic, and we're gonna have him at some point. People in Toledo have to come to a concert with Joe. I mean, and maybe we play together. That would be fun, also.
Didn't you guys do a dual concerto this year?
I beg your pardon?
Didn't you do a dual concerto with Joe this year?
Yeah, we played the Johan de May, who's the guy who wrote this piece for band. That's
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings. Exactly.
It's a really good piece.
It's an amazing piece. It's been played hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of times around the world. And Johan is also a good friend of mine, and Joe. So we all said, well, let's play together. I had a little space in my schedule, and also
a few minutes,
a lot of time in my basement studio practicing, because when you're going to play with the principal drummer New York Phil or Amsterdam Concertgebouw, you have to make sure that you go and shed a little bit and practice at least a week or two before.
Yeah. So who won?
Yeah.
Who won the concerto?
It's not a PDQ back thing. It's okay.
Speaking of PDQ back, let's pivot and talk about the other thing that we were going to talk about during the program today, and that is about musical misconceptions. We were trying to come up with things that we should talk about, and this is something that's important, because there are a lot of people out there, even folks who listen to this podcast, I think, that hold certain stereotypes about classical music. And while we have you on the phone, Alain, I thought it would be fun for us to sort of play a little roulette wheel of misconceptions, right? See what I did there?
That, didn't you?
Classical myths, right? Music myths.
Oh, yeah.
Misconceptions. Yeah, myth-conceptions. So we're going to spin the roulette wheel, and in my high-tech version here, I've got the little slips of paper in my hand. And here, Zach, why don't you take one out of there? See what you got. Here is myth conception number 1.
This is a good one. Okay. Classical music is old, stuffy, and boring.
What do you think about that, Alain? Do you agree?
Well, it depends how it's played, actually.
It's just the players are old, stuffy, and boring.
That would be the answer.
Yeah. No, but seriously, I mean, it depends. If you play it like, it's not a museum. I mean, I love museums, of course, and we also play at the museum, which is the most wonderful place. But, if you look at something that's is how could I say, not stuck in time, but it's from a period, and it's just that. And you can admire it for what it is, but music is not that kind of art form. It's something that it's amazing. It was written at a certain time, but it keeps on living. Beethoven's Fifth, Beethoven, whatever, Mahler, they keep on living. So if you try to be too how could I say, correct and you wind up sometimes having an interpretation that has no interpretation. So you want to make sure that you respect what you're doing, the composer, but you bring some life into it. We have the incredible luck of making the art live every time we play. So if we keep that in mind, yes. But I don't know. It's kind of it was a uphill battle for many years. Not much better since the last 10, 15 years because we've showed. We've arrived with the times, if I can say. Zach says that sometimes. That you go to a concert, you see people dressed up like or placed on stage like 150 years ago. So people don't relate sometimes. So to relate, you need to have something that's more, from our time. I'm not saying to dumb down the music. I'm not saying to change the way we play, but I'm saying it has to be alive, very much alive. So if it's that way, absolutely not. And if they don't pay attention, maybe so.
All right.
Yeah, maybe it is.
I would just add one thing to that.
Good answer.
Is people think it's stuffy because they think it's boring and it's not relevant to them. And this gets to an education gap that I think people fear that in order to appreciate a concert, they have to know exactly what they're listening to and why it's important. And I think we as a society haven't necessarily kept up with that dialogue. I think programs like this help a lot to explain key points or relevant items. So, our hope is that we provide enough access points into the performance, whether it's through the screens or through the podcast or through our program notes, that people can engage and not feel like they have to have a doctorate in music in order to appreciate it.
Yeah, I think you just knocked out 2 or 3 other misconceptions that we have here.
I'll just leave now.
No, that's good. Here, Felicia, you
No
grab
more
one.
spit for you.
Yeah, right.
What do you got?
Maybe Zach already answered this. Classical music isn't relevant anymore.
Oh. Well, of course it's relevant. Or it can be relevant. What do you think, Zach?
Well, okay, so...
Hang on, let me get you a little music here.
So you take that guy, you take Beethoven, right?
Yeah.
So
Beethoven is very relevant.
here's a guy who was composing over 100 years ago, but that his music can still speak to us in many ways. Think about it. When we have great moments of national triumph or tragedy, we'll often reach back into the pockets of history and play music that's been part of us for so long. So I think it is.
Hang on, I want to write that down. Say it again.
You have to play it back.
That was good.
But I think it's very much part of our foundation as an art form, and certainly it evolves. We still have composers who are writing music for orchestra right now, and I think Alain, you're doing a wonderful job of programming a lot of wonderful 20th century music, as well as composers who might have been overlooked. And as we look into the 21st century, with some of our commissions and some of the items you'll be performing next year, Jennifer Higdon, for example, there's so much music that is yet to be explored.
And there's so much that people, they might just be unaware that classical music is really all around them because, the easiest connection is the movie film scores, like John Williams film scores, for instance.
Yeah.
We'll have the lush orchestra background, and that's what we do too, And for me, I see a new generation of kids who are, engaging in orchestra programs, band programs, and it's so still relevant to them. It's just, I think, if you don't engage in one of those programs or play an instrument or sing in a choir, it's something that you just have to, try a little bit harder to get into it.
Yeah. I mean, the gateway is not quite as wide open to you as for other folks.
But it's all around.
But it is everywhere, and we don't necessarily notice it at all. It's completely throughout even commercial media as well. You hear classical music and classical styled music all the time. I mean, that's our heritage. That's where, all music ultimately comes from. Let me get another little spin here. Let's see. What have I got? Nah, we'll skip that one. Let's get another one. Here we go. Oh, this is one to you, Alain. Okay.
Okay.
Conductors are all-powerful demigods who rule with an iron fist. What do you think of that?
Oh boy.
That one's to you, Alain.
Yeah, exactly. Well, good question. 100 years too late, though. But no, come on. There was an era, I have to say, where people could get away with that kind of attitude, but that's, thank God, long past. And when I say thank God, I don't mean my colleagues. But but seriously, it's thank God we're not living at that time anymore. I mean, even when I started off in the orchestra, it was still, you would be so scared of the conductor, and I played in other countries, not in America, as principal trombone, some orchestra, and they didn't have like kind of any protection for the musicians, like the union, things like that, and people get fired on the spot, and oh my gosh, it's not a way to make music. It's not a way to live, and it's sure not a way to make good music. So now we're done with that. We're past now. We're colleagues, but of course, the thing is that you have to make decisions. It's clear, and the colleagues appreciate somebody who can be decisive, because we don't have so much time to put programs together. We don't have like 6 months to put a program together, or even 2 weeks. So sometimes decisions have to be made. But and now there are some mechanics and orchestras that if it doesn't work out, if somebody's being a tyrant or a dictator or whatever you said in your question there, then you can actually get rid of them, which is a good thing.
Yeah. I believe it was demigod.
Demigod, yes.
Sorry.
All powerful.
Well, in that case,
demigod.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know Demi. Sorry.
It's interesting though, because I think about it. If you think of the all-powerful maestro, you think about Toscanini, you think about Herbert von Karajan. Now we're talking to a music director who is really excited to be performing on a 1940s era trombone in a jazz concert. So look how far we've come.
Yeah, totally. All right. Well, that's about all the time that we have. I was hoping we could solve some of the world's problems, like, why are there so many viola jokes and things like that. But we'll have to save that for another podcast. Once again, I want to mention the concert that we talked about, the jazz program that's happening at the Stranahan Theater this Saturday evening, March 9th at 8 o'clock p.m. Legendary jazz pianist Gene DiNovi, along with our own music director, world-class trombonist Alain Trudel at the Stranahan Theater. You can get your tickets at 419-246-8000 or go online to ToledoSymphony.com. This program is a production of WGTE Public Media in collaboration with our sponsor, the Toledo Symphony. You can download episodes of this program as a podcast by going to our website at wgte.org/lab. You can also subscribe to us through your podcast app of choice, including Apple and Google Podcasts. My thanks to Zach Vassar, Alain Trudel, and Felicia Canny. I'm Brad Cresswell. You've been listening to Toledo Symphony Lab on FM 91.